Hello. We've been on the road. We've been to Spain, China and Italy, as well as going out for a spin in our own backyard, the Solent. And while I've been getting very excited about the racing, I've also been taking a look at how things are made. But first, we want to say thank you, because as we publish this episode, Planet Sail has its 4th birthday, and in that time we've passed 10 million views. We typically have 250,000 views a month, and we think they're pretty big numbers. Numbers that wouldn't have happened without you watching, so thanks very much indeed. The one thing professional sailors are really bad at is losing. But in SailGP, where the boats are not only identical, but where the data from every team is freely available to all, losing is a reality. And this year the heat has been turned up. Not only are there more events in the calendar, 13 to be precise, but now as the clock counts down to the next America's Cup in October 2024, SailGP is becoming an even more important arena for testing and training and staying match fit. And if you think I'm hamming this up, take a look at the performances at the recent America's Cup preliminary event in Villanova. The least experienced team in the Cup, the French Orient Express racing team, won the opening race. It's no coincidence that they've been doing quite well in SailGP. And when it came to the winning team at the Cup event in Villanova, guess who was holding one of the wheels of the winning boat? Yes, Tom Slingsby, skipper of the team that until recently had been dominating SailGP aboard the Australian boat. Kiwis Peter Burling and Blair Tuke have been mixing it up in both camps too, and so the list goes on. We ran a feature on the Villanova event which you can see by following the link. But if you've lost touch with what's been going on with SailGP, this should get you up to speed. The 3rd event in season 4 started with drama, a capsize, a dismasting, a collision, and some of the most competitive racing we've seen. Although the forecast was for light winds, St Tropez can still be a deceptive venue, especially when the breeze sweeps over the town. It was one of these gusts that caught the Americans out during practice. Fortunately, no damage was done to the boat or the crew. Come the first race day, the breeze was very light and the big wings were out. With barely any hint of breeze on the water, day 1 was as much about trying to keep the boat above the water as it was about tactical play. There was plenty to consider after the first day's racing. The Kiwis made their presence felt by winning the first race. The Australians took the second race and the Americans won the third. And then came the big drama, as the Kiwis lost their wing on the way in.
There was absolutely no sound out of the normal until there was one massive bang, which was, must have been one side failing compression in the middle of the wing. Yeah, I think for us it's obviously incredibly scary. You know, we sail with this configuration a lot. And to have a massive failure like that's something that I don't think we've seen in this league yet. So yeah, I think right now for all of us, we're just incredibly thankful everyone's safe. Like I said, would have been pretty easy for a different outcome, and you know, I think that was the first thing going through everyone's mind on board, just making sure everyone's safe, no one's been hit, and then you know, how to get the boat back in one piece.
On the second day, it was the Brits and the Australians that won the two fleet races, with Spain joining them for the three-team face-off in the final race.
Get out of it! Get out of it! Get out of it! Get out of it! Okay, little press. Okay, just us and them now.
Yeah, copy. We can get to lay here.
Copy. Think probably one of them. Us guys.
And after a 2.5-year event-win drought, the Brits took victory in St Tropez.
It has been a while, and it's been a frustrating one because we've obviously got a great team. The team have had to dig deep, and big shout out to Rob Wilson, our coach, as well, for helping with that, and the shore team that has always done a brilliant job getting this boat in perfect condition for racing. We expected some big gains and losses, and I think we saw that for all of the teams, and we just had to hang in there and keep the sailing the best we could. I think the team did a great job all weekend, making the best of what we had, and Hannah, as always, trying to get us in the right spot on the race course and reading the breeze, which was incredibly hard out here. So, as always, great team effort.
2 weeks later, and hot foot from the America's Cup preliminary event in Villanova, the fourth SailGP event of the season took place in Taranto, southern Italy. But without the Kiwis, who had no large wing following the dismasting in France. Fired up by their earlier success, the Brits delivered an impressive performance on the opening day with 2 seconds and a third to take the overall lead. Australia had delivered 2 wins but ended up buried in the third race, finishing 5th. On the second day, Ben Ainsley's team delivered another win, with Jimmy Spittill's American flag team winning the second race of the day. This left the British, the Australians and the Americans to fight things out in the last race. A race that saw Great Britain take another win overall. By this stage, the season's leaderboard was showing signs of a shake-up. The Australians were still leading, but the Brits had pulled themselves into second, with Spain in third. Having now won 2 consecutive events, it was easy to see why the British were walking a little taller. But the regular SailGP sailors, including the Brits, also know that Cadiz can be especially hard to read. It's famous for gusty conditions that can have you swimming in a flash. And it's well known for having lulls like vacuums and invisible shifts. So it might be a cliche, but no one was taking anything for granted. Which was a good plan, because getting a good result depended on getting a clean start, and that's never a given in SailGP. Get buried and more often than not your race will be over, as Ainsley & Co discovered. 6th was their best result on the opening day after failing to get a good start all day. But those that did often went on to secure podium positions. Spain, USA, Denmark, France and Australia all had at least one podium place. On day 2, several of the same faces were there, with new appearances from the Kiwis and Canada. But among the impressive individual performances over the weekend, it was Spittill's USA team that had attracted plenty of attention. And while they scraped into the final after a mistake from the Kiwis, they were in it. A poor start saw the American team trail, but seconds later Denmark and Australia locked horns, leaving Spittill to take full advantage of the situation. Once in the lead, they never gave it back and went on to take the overall win.
And the USA SailGP team, they come to Spain and they claim the victory.
And just as Ainsley had enjoyed a change in fortune in the previous 2 events, so Spittill got to remember just how much better it feels to be at the top of the leaderboard after a long time in the wilderness.
We certainly think at the start that we were thinking it was 100% my fault not seeing the boundary, but it doesn't faze this team. I mean, it's something that we've kind of built up in the team, that it doesn't matter, where we are, we're just going to fight the whole way to the end. And from then on, we just extended and really built a great lead, so ended up being a pretty straightforward race.
Just below them in second, Sehested's Danish team were not feeling the same. This had been their chance to get their first event win.
That's sport. Yeah, no, it's. I think we deserved a bit more today, but that's sport. You can always go about it. We're happy in the overall. We're consistent. We just keep our heads down and keep working hard, and eventually the win will come.
But as the overall points took yet another shuffle, and with season 4 not even halfway through, there are signs that this season could be very different to those that have gone before. Earlier in the season, one event that proved incredibly popular on Planet Sail was the Rolex Fastnet race. If you weren't one of the 700,000 views that we had from the 3 features that we ran, you might want to take a look at what all the fuss was about. This is a boat that has sailed up from Australia twice to do this event, and a boat that loves these conditions. Canting Keel Maxi, formerly Rambler 88 and multiple offshore record holder, stood a 75% chance of setting a new record. 3.5 hours after the first start, things have got pretty lively out here in the Hurst Narrows. The tide is now pressing hard up against a solid 25 knot breeze with gusts well into the 30s down here. Some very steep seas and some quite challenging conditions for their fleet as they go through. Meanwhile, inshore, the 6-metre Worlds attracted a great deal of attention too when the fleet came to Cowes for its World Championships. After a week of spring tides and tricky southeasterly breezes, it was the crew of Scoundrel that went home with the trophy in the Open division.
Winning the World Championship is candidly unbelievable, and the day sailing, the team, we didn't want to take any big risks. I'm speechless, candidly. It was just fantastic. The boat goes so great, and the guys get the boat going so well that it just everything fell into place.
And it was Bribon, owned by His Majesty King Juan Carlos of Spain, that won the Classic division. Another feature that proved very popular this summer was our story about a builder that is as famous for their Grand Prix carbon boats as they are for their high-tech cruising cats. They're also very well known for the thousands of foiling moths that they've produced, but less well known as the builders of the AC40 foiling monohulls that are being used in this year's America's Cup cycle. They're also building some pretty interesting hydrogen fuel cell powered cats. So with all that in mind, and the fact that they're doing it all in China, I had to go and have a look. It was a fascinating trip, and if you haven't seen it already, you can watch it here by following the link. There's another pocket rocket on the scene. Jeannot's Sunfast 31 design, but this one's different. Born out of a competition, the aim was to produce an affordable 30-footer that would appeal to the up-and-coming generations of short-handed and full crews. A one-design boat that would avoid the additional complication and costs of handicap optimization. And a boat that was both simple and quick. The winning design by VPLP and Multiplast has no foils, no water ballast, and aside from the reinforcement in the rudders, no carbon. And yet she's a ton lighter than a comparable IRC cruiser racer. She's also an infused monolithic layup using the recyclable resin Elium. Boat number 1 was on display at the end of this year's Fastnet race in Cherbourg, where she drew plenty of attention. As are her sister ships that are starting to appear at this season's boat shows. If offshore's your thing and a price tag that starts at €143,000 is in your budget, this is a boat to keep an eye on. Under the cover of the pandemic, Swedish builder Shogun Yachts launched a fascinating 50-footer. It attracted lots of attention among those in the know. While you might not have seen it yet, there's no reason to miss their follow-up act, the Shogun 43. From her angular, muscular hull shape to an innovative and versatile cockpit and a striking accommodation style and layout, this is a boat that will turn heads. At just 6,100 kilos, she's a very light boat, with narrow lines that suggest that she'll be slippery in light airs. But her aggressive chines aft also deliver a good deal of righting moment and power when she's heeled. She has a huge, powerful, self-tacking fore-triangle too, and with her fixed carbon bowsprit, the off-wind sails are all asymmetric and easily handled as well. All of which adds up to a good-looking 43-foot performance cruiser that has been designed to be easily handled 2 up. And if that's you, she's one for the list. There are some who said at the time that the super grunty Open 70s was simply too powerful and too brutal to have a life after the Volvo Ocean Race around the world. How wrong they were. Originally built for Ken Reed's Puma campaign, I Love Poland has come a long way since she came across to Europe in 2018 and has delivered some impressive results. Line honours in the Middle Sea Race, the Rourke Transatlantic Race, the Baltic Sea Race, Round Gotland Race and many more. This is a campaign that has enjoyed plenty of success. But even more impressive is that this grunty offshore machine has provided a training pathway for young Polish sailors. In its first 4 years, I Love Poland has received more than 1,100 applications from people from Olympic medalists to young sailors at the grassroots. And even then, it's not just about the sailing. Sea survival, medical and diving courses are just a few of the courses that are taught in conjunction with this campaign. Because for I Love Poland, it's about helping to develop careers as well as unforgettable experiences. There's no substitute for hours on the water and miles at sea when it comes to testing kit, which is why Italian hardware suppliers UBI Meyer puts so much emphasis on testing in real-world conditions. 12 Nakira 69 clocked up over 30,000 miles on a round trip that included a lap of the Atlantic along with an extensive tour of the Mediterranean. Aside from regular maintenance, there were no reports of failures or repairs, something for which UBI Meyer take a great deal of pride. But whatever the yacht, from high specification furlers to sheaves, blocks and many other critical components, each goes through the same rigorous design, manufacture and testing procedure. Often the design process starts with 3D printing before moving to CNC milled components to refine the design before the production starts. So perhaps quietly they weren't that surprised to hear that no news was good news at the end of the trip. The world of sailmaking is a complicated one, but every now and then we get an insight. OneSails have been around for quite a while, but they've been quite tight-lipped about how they make their sails and why they're different. Until now. They say Prato here in Tuscany is the Manchester of Italy. For hundreds of years this area has been Italy's textile centre. There are around 7,000 businesses based around fashion here. The locals call it the Silicon Valley of textiles. It's a valley where the River Bisenzio provided both the power and the water required for this industry when it was starting up. Today things are a bit different, but what on earth has this got to do with this? Well, the simple answer is that the company that manufactures OneSails membranes is based in Prato, but unlike the textiles of the past, Flex & Composites produces a modern, advanced sail membrane. They say their sails are different. Well, let's face it, every sailmaker says this, and in a part of the sport that is overflowing with acronyms and trade names, it's often difficult to know when you're comparing apples with apples. So, to be honest, it took me a while to get my head around what makes OneSails different. When the penny finally dropped, it did so when I thought about how frequently sails used to delaminate. Anyone who's had a mylar sail would have seen how in time it comes apart. UV breaks the mylar down, making it brittle. The mylar cracks and lets moisture in, which fibres like Kevlar really don't like. And while carbon and other fibres might coat better, the resin that holds them together degrades with the moisture. The UV also causes the glue to crystallise, and the mylar separates from the rest of the sail. It's not a good look, and replacing mylar has been a focus for the sailmaking industry for a while. For OneSails, the solution is called 4T, an advanced composite that takes a very different approach. It starts with a material that doesn't break down in UV. This material forms the cross-cut panels into which the shape of the sails is built. From there, the easiest way to think of the production is to think of the sail as a cheese and ham toastie. The sail is built in two halves. The cross-cut panels are the bread. The next stage, which is unique to OneSails, is to lay continuous fibres from the three corners of the sail. These are high-performance polyethylene-based fibres, which they call solid stripes, or STR for short. The process that they use to lay the threads is a closely guarded secret and one of the keys to the production of their sails, so they wouldn't show us this bit. But what they say is that they're the only sailmaker to use continuous fibres on the inside of the composite. The solid stripes are the ham, the business part of the sandwich. During the layout process, a melting matrix is added, a thin film that creates the molecular link between the layers. This is the cheese. Once both sides have been completed, the second half is laid over the top of the first. And just like a cheese and ham toastie, it goes into an oven to be cooked, but in this case under a vacuum to consolidate the composite. This is another stage that OneSails are quite sensitive about, as it's taken over 20 years to develop and refine this process. Essentially, it's a giant vacuum bag with an inflatable bladder underneath to ensure that the laminate takes up its flying shape. The sail is inside the bag, and from there the cooking starts, 100 degrees C under vacuum pressure for an hour. After that, it's done. And from there, the membrane then goes to the various OneSails lofts to be finished. The STR fibres are not only very stable and not affected by UV, but are impressive structurally too. Weight for weight, STR has the same stretch properties as carbon, and they claim that on large maxi sails, for example, they can be up to 40% lighter. That's quite a claim. They also say that in many cases they can easily be 25% lighter without compromising on strength or durability at all. In fact, they say they've never had a structural failure with a 40 sail since the first one was produced in 2013. That's also quite a statement. So, on that basis, these are very strong and durable sails. In fact, it explains the name. It's not 4T, as us Brits might call it. It's forte, as the Italians say it, which means strong. And they're also quite tasty. Is that a bit too cheesy? Sustainability is also a key part of these sails. Because the whole process is based on polyethylene, and because it's a heat and pressure process and not a chemical reaction, the material can be recovered, reconstituted and used to make other products. It was this that helped trigger the idea to set up a new sailmaking company back in 2007.
After the finish of the Cup in 2007, I was sailing on Mascalzone Latino. During it, I was already thinking about setting up a sailmaking network. And at the end of it, when I've been helping to close the containers full of old sails, I also thought that sailing is considered a green sport, but it is not always like that. And so I thought that we should be starting thinking differently and do something that is new, that is looking to a better future. And that's where all our research and our process began. Now, of course, you cannot start the research with the goal in mind of the sustainability. That's the next goal, but the first goal is, of course, performance. And when we talk about sails, the performance is coming out of lightness, longevity, stiffness, all the characteristics that the sail must have. And working with our engineers, and especially with Piercarlo Molta, that is the inventor of the new technology, the goal has been first get the best performing product, and then if we can keep an eye on finding the way to make it also sustainable, that's the ideal. And finally, after a lot of research, after a lot of work, we could get there. And I have to say that when we launched it, it was in 2013, so 10 years ago, and nobody didn't care about sustainability at the time. So I feel kind of proud that we have been kind of being in the forefront of this area, where nowadays, after 10 years, everybody is talking about sustainability, and we feel that we are leading this.
Someone who has already taken this to heart is round-the-world sailor Pip Hare.
I'm sitting in the middle of one of my jibs in the OneSails loft in Suffolk. My main is just on the floor behind me, and we've just been giving the sails a final look over before they get shipped off for recycling. Now this is a really exciting project for us, and it's the first time that a set of sails that have been around the world on an IMOCA are going to be recycled. We're not sure what we're going to turn them into in the end, but we'll keep you updated on it. But this is all part of our commitment to sustainability. We're constantly looking at ways that we can prolong the life of everything on board the boat, reuse things, recycle things, so that all together we create a more sustainable campaign.
So when it comes to the sustainability of sails, your sail could end up looking like this. And you could end up with a product looking like this. While creating sails with a smaller carbon footprint has been a key focus for OneSails, looking at the full life cycle analysis has also been an essential part of the process.
The life cycles of the membrane of the product that we are producing from cradle to grave is certified as well by third parties, which controls the material we are using, the impact of the raw materials, of the processing, of the energy, and whatever is all included in the analysis of the LCA according to the ISO 14000.
We think that it's something that must be taken seriously. That's why we've been through all the official processes, all the certification, all the ISO rules, everything, because it's very easy nowadays to talk about, but between talking and doing, there is a huge difference.
Unfortunately, or luckily for us, there's no one have made a rate of this, so no other producer has a life cycle assessment certified and controlled by third parties. So we can say that our membrane are, in the average production, are emitting from 6 to 7 kilograms of CO2 for kilogram of product that we deliver, but we are not able to compare this result with anyone else because no one in this sector have done this kind of study, especially certified by third parties.
So there's clearly quite a difference in the way that these sails are constructed. Given how complicated the sailmaking industry has made understanding the difference between various techniques, I think we can all be forgiven for being a bit wary about new claims. Forte does seem to be fundamentally different, but the biggest advantage is the bit you can't see. These are very robust sails. These sails on the 65-footer Hagar 5 are 4 years old and have done 5,000 racing miles. But what can't be disputed is that as a sport, we really do need to do something about the number of sails that we get through. Surely the days of a high-performance jib having a life of just a few hours is not something to be proud of. Ultimately, recycling sails must surely be the answer. But the reality is that at the moment, that's a way off. But using them for something else is a step forward.
Sails are having one of the hardest life of any item in the world because they are subject to UV, to salt, to wind, a lot of stress, misuse. So even the longest lasting sail is has an end of life, and so we are taking care of that. But on top of that, I would like to say that already in the production of it, our sails are with a very low emission, CO2 emissions. But if we compare it with the normal Dacron sail, that is the basic of sailing or sail making, we know that we are at least 1/3 lower emission already, being a high-tech sail compared to the lowest tech sail available.
In the meantime, for me, the immediate lesson is that while these sails might look much as you might expect on the outside, on the inside, they're very different. sailboats clearly have a head start when it comes to going green, but the way in which power is generated is less straightforward. McConaghy Boats know this well and have been working hard on new ways to solve the issue. Cats have a big advantage when it comes to the available surface area for solar panels. So from their 55-footer through to their 115-foot Supercat, solar power has proved popular and practical. Identifying the most efficient panels has been key, but McConaghy have gone several steps further. The use of solar photovoltaic glass, which allows the windows to act as solar panels, has proved popular too. They've installed fast charging 48-volt systems that can generate up to 6 kilowatts per engine, which allows 12 kilowatts to be pushed back into the batteries when motoring. But McConaghy are also working on an exciting project to create a more practical way of producing and storing hydrogen for an onboard fuel cell. And at that point, they're reluctant to reveal any more, yet. Doyle Sails design and produce over 80% of the sail wardrobe for Southern Wind yachts. Given the competition in the superyacht end of the market, that's an impressive statistic. They claim that part of the reason for their success is that they take a fundamentally different approach. Southern Wind's latest launch, the 96-foot Niumba, is a good example. The brief was for a square-top mainsail that could be used for cruising, an ambitious goal. A detailed study in collaboration with the spar makers and the designers established that Niumba could be sailed with the second reef in, but without using the running backstays. This meant that a small crew could easily manage this sail, which in turn meant that the sail was a practical and feasible option for deliveries. Changing sail shape using their structured luff technology also meant that they were able to reduce the size of the sail wardrobe while maintaining a wide range of versatility. Two key examples, they say, of how their approach is different. How long do you think it takes to paint a 32-metre long Ultime trimaran? I bet you don't get close, because the answer in Banque Populaire's case is 5,000 hours. Told you. But this was no ordinary paint job. The application of the Nautix coatings for the newly refitted giant trimaran that's due to set off around the world in a brand new solo non-stop race in January 2024 involved a sophisticated package of coatings. From the deck paint to the topsides and then the hard matrix antifoul A4T4 coating. It was a huge process, and one that was made more complex by high-performance, highly stressed foils that need abrasion and impact resistance at very high speeds. For this, Nautix provided what they described as an exceptionally hard matrix, the NX194. And while we're quoting numbers, here's some more. The process required around 250 litres of paint in total, and when the job was complete, the entire coating weighed just 150 kilos. I bet you wouldn't have guessed that either. It's clear that the 47-metre Rycorpu Nautor sloop Nilaya is stunning. What's not so obvious is that she claims to be the lightest displacement aluminium sailing superyacht ever built. And Rondal are declaring their part in that impressive achievement. From carbon components in the deck to the sophisticated keel trunk structure that allows her fin and bulb keel to be raised or lowered when sailing upwind, through to the supply of the entire rig, this has been an exceptional project at the leading edge. Rondal also supplied the deckhouse and the main cockpit as a single piece of pre-preg composite, which was then bonded to the hull. They supplied the composite foredeck too. And then there was the long list of equipment that included 10 hydraulic deck winches, captive reel winches that weigh half as much as their predecessors, custom-built skylight hatches, and various items of titanium hardware. And so the list goes on. So, while she looks amazing, under her skin, she's even more impressive. Now, those of you that were watching earlier on this year will know that one of the boats that we reviewed was the Farr X2, an exciting 30-foot pocket rocket. Well, since then, quite a lot's changed for this boat, and given that it's just outside the Planet Sail office, and it was a sunny day where the breeze was up, we thought we'd pop along to find out what's been going on. As you may remember, this 30-footer was designed with short-handed and fully crewed sailing in mind. But it's also a boat that got off to a difficult start, and following our sailing trials earlier in the year, the X2 went back into the shed for some mods. At the same time, on the other side of the world, the whole build operation moved house as well, which left me with some questions for Nick Bonner of Sea Ventures. Tell us what the main difference has been. What's been the big change?
The biggest change is the rudder system. So we've obviously we had those big cassettes on the which a rudder fitted into, which was designed for that kick-up system. So it had a fuse, so if you hit something it would break. But which is all good in theory, but to enable that, we just ended up with so much weight. It pushed the rudder back away from the hull as well, which affected the balance of the boat, as you well remember. And they were heavy, they were dragging in the water. So it was just all wrong, you know, the boat felt slow and it wouldn't respond. So it's been a massive change just in the weight we've managed to take out the system and the drag we've managed to take out the system, coupled with the better balance of the helm.
There's definitely a lot more balance in the helm, that's for sure. I mean, going upwind now, we've got we've had 10 to 12 knots of breeze. We've been going upwind at 6 knots. And up into 7 knots at times. And of course, the big difference, we didn't have water ballast last time I sailed. So how much, we got water ballast in now.
Yeah.
How much have we got
so
in?
250 litres, which is quite a bit. And it's basically from about here back to just after view. And it's, you know, it's this far away from the hull, so it's spread over that distance. So it's a really efficient water ballast tank.
So I mean, that's effectively 3 people on the row, isn't it? 250 kilos.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 of us.
It's our middle age.
Downwind, it was certainly a lot more balance with the kite up. Pretty quick as well. I mean, in the same kind of breeze, we were getting 13 knots downwind. That's pretty good
exactly.
For a 30-footer, isn't it?
Yeah, really good. I mean, you have to pinch yourself sometimes. You're on a 30-footer. It's especially an offshore 30-footer that's that sort of capable. And again, I think the rudder system has helped massively with that because, as we were saying before, you know, the response time is instant now. The boat wants to accelerate, and you can just, before you would bear off and the rudder would stall a bit and the boat wouldn't come down, and by the time you actually got there, the gust has gone, and now it's an instant acceleration and movement, isn't it?
Yeah, the boat definitely feels like she knows where she wants to go, that's for sure, which is a bit different to last time.
Yes.
I mean, she's definitely a lovely boat to sail. There's been a few changes as well, no, a major change actually, I hear, from where the boat is now built.
Yeah, so originally they were being built in Indonesia, and lead times and shipping costs, and now Sea Ventures have taken on the project with Brett Perry. We looked at where's our core market. The core market is Europe and the States, so why not build the boat in Europe? So we found a really good builder in Portugal, a company called Nello. And we're just starting, Brett's over there now, getting all set up, and we're just starting production now on the first boats to be produced there.
They build kayaks, don't
they? They build kayaks amongst other things, but they've been starting, they build some of the smaller Melges boats. They build, I forget the name of it, but it's a cruiser, 30-foot cruiser they build as well. So it's not a new thing for them to build a boat. And the workshop's fantastic there, you know, it's all set up really well. I'm really excited to see the first boats they produce.
You've been racing the boat as well, haven't you? Just recently.
Yes, yeah, we did. I've done a few races on board. Still a long way to go in the learning curve of it all. We're just figuring out how to really make the boat go quick with some rig set up. But we're getting there. I mean, Saturday we did a race to Poole, really light airs, upwind all the way. Very light coming out of Solent, and we were leading Class 1 coming out of Solent, which was really good. Kind of parked up around Hurst, unfortunately, and but we were really figuring out modes, what the boat really liked, and it was really rewarding. And then Sunday was out this world. It was 20 to 25 knots, sort of 105 true wind angle to North Head, and we were doing jib and stay sail, doing 22 knots. We averaged, and then we had code 0 back down to Solent as well. Just under 30 miles, and we did it in 2 hours.
Amazing.
It's not bad.
It is amazing. As you say, you have to pinch yourself to remind yourself it's a 30-footer.
Yeah.
I tell you the other thing that really strikes me about this boat, and I think I must have been struck by it when we first sailed the boat, but I guess because there's only 3 of us on board today, it's a very easy boat to handle, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just saying that, it really is. I mean, we were putting in jibes and it was no more difficult than sailing my 400.
No, exactly. I mean, the whole, you know, Brett's done a fantastic job on the layout of the boat. As we were saying earlier, you know, you can pretty much use every winch for anything. And that really helps. And the fact that it's light and easy, I mean, yeah, it was just easy to do it. To jibe, it's very manageable. Even in the big breeze, I mean, for us on that Sunday, realistically, it was so easy. I mean, we just had to point at the mark, effectively, and let the boat do the work. And it was fantastic, you know, it just felt easy, but really rewarding.
Yeah. Well, I fear that this is another one that's going on my long and extensive list of boats that I need to have at some point in my life.
Well, you know where to come.
It always strikes me as odd that at this time of year, when temperatures are dropping in the northern hemisphere and people are packing their boats away, the world's offshore elite are getting ready to put in some serious miles. One of Planet Sail's regulars is Dee Caffari, who's planning to do just that as her team works towards a particularly special project, what they call the Famous Project.
So new for me, it's super exciting. The Famous Project, led by French sailor Alexia Barrier, who did the Vendée Globe in 2020. But she decided to take on a bit of a bigger challenge and has put the project together with the ambition of a full all-female crew taking on a Jules Verne record attempt.
The only thing you have to know is that there was no woman in this game since 25 years. So I needed time to picture myself in this position, and finally I went for it, and now we have 2 boats, a great team that we are building. We're gonna do 2 years of training around races, record all over the world. We're gonna go to States, Japan, Europe with the team and try to be the best as we can to try to beat the record and set a time for a woman crew, 100% woman team that doesn't exist yet.
We have the same boat that Francis Joyon got the record in, so we've got the tried and tested machine. We've just got to live up to its standards now. So that's very exciting. They're on board with us for 3 years. In the meantime, we've got to learn how to sail the boat, and we've got hold of a Mod 70, and we're training and racing on that so that we can almost train hard, race easy. And I know that sounds a bit extreme with a 70-foot trimaran against a 100-foot trimaran, but the proportions, it's like the same size rig on a Mod 70 as IDEX Sport has on a much bigger platform. So stability almost feels a little bit easier on the L team. I'm talking from what I've heard because I haven't sailed it yet, but we've had some training and we've even set a record run already on the Mod 70, and it's been really good. And we're fast tracking our learning by sailing with people with experience. So if you see Brian Thompson and you count his grey hairs, we may have given him a few more extra grey hairs with the stress we put him under. So there's a 2-boat programme for next year. So this year is mainly focused on the Mod 70. We've just taken ownership of the L team, so there's a bit of work to be done there. And we'll do a little bit of training on there, but the programme for 2024 will have different events with the 2 boats. The Mod 70 being mainly med-based and local-based and racing, and the L team doing longer stuff. So we need a big squad of people, and the team at the moment is based around a core group that Alexia's put together, and we're really keen to get new blood in so that we leave a legacy through this project, and we may find new talent that we don't even know about yet, which is exciting. And then the focus then in 2025 will move more towards the L team, because hopefully then we'll be sat waiting for the weather window at the right time of year.
And the whole programme is going to be an all-female team?
Yeah, so we're definitely training mixed because that's the quickest way to transfer experience and knowledge. And then as we grow in confidence and ability and knowledge, then we're, weed the guys out and take over the roles and ownership. And that leaving us for the Jules Verne attempt to be with an all-female team, and it's been 25 years since Tracy Edwards took Royal Sun Alliance on an all-female attempt, which is crazy that nothing's been done in 25 years. Sadly, they dismasted at Cape Horn, but they got a good number of records along the way in their preparation. So we're hoping to pick up that mantle 25 years later and move it forwards.
I wanted to send you a message from myself and the entire crew of Royal Sun Alliance to wish you all the very best, because we really hope that you break this record. As you know, we were the first all-female crew to attempt the Jules Verne record, and that was in 1998, with the usual proviso that we were all going to kill ourselves, this time on a large catamaran. We managed to prove our critics wrong by breaking 5 world records, and we were actually well on track to break the Jules Verne record when we lost our mast in the Southern Ocean, about there. So be careful of that spot.
What are you going to do to the boat to make it go quicker? Because you're actually up against your own record, or the boat's own record.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, if you look at the other old teams that are around that have tried and not succeeded, they're much more modern, new technology, new foils. You know, the designs are quite, it almost feels like IDEC's quite agricultural in its concept, but sometimes tried and tested is quite good. It relieves some of the anxiety and stress that you have, because you know it's been there, seen it, done it, and you can push it a little bit harder. But technology has moved on, and we need to look at that. So whether it's once we learn to sail, we find out what changes can be made sensibly. It's always a matter of cost, but you know, it might be foil design, it might be how we sail the boat, it might just be sails and rig design. I don't know. So I need more time on the boat to see how that evolves.
So you've got a pretty open mind as a team at the moment as to what you can.
Sponges, want to learn, want the information.
I was thinking more about whether, I mean, so Gitana, for example, among others, is sort of a foil assisted. Well, it's a fully foiling boat, isn't it? And they seem to be getting more and more confident with that, and the speeds are going up. And so, I mean, would you be looking at something as extreme as that if you could make it happen?
Well, I think, you know, if we look at the way sailing's moving and the way the technology's moving and the confidence everyone's getting in that arena, we'd be foolish not to. As soon as you can reduce the friction, reduce drag, you know, you're going to accelerate, but you need to sustain that. And that's the secret.
Once again, and as always, thanks so much for watching. If you want to dig deeper, there's plenty more on the YouTube channel and on our website. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed. It's free, but it makes a big difference. Hit the notification bell to make sure that you know when the next feature's online. Like us on Facebook, follow us on X, and in the meantime, stay safe, stay well. Until next time.
Thank you.